What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the show. My name is Zen, and welcome to part 2 of our second book review. Again, I'm going over I Will Teach You to Be Rich. A quick summary, part 1, I'm going to put a link or something. I'm going to figure out YouTube and put somewhere in there you can click and watch part 1 in case you're coming new to this. I'm part 2. But part 1, we talked about the intro and also about your credit card, if you have any credit card debt or student loan debt, just kind of squaring away your situation there, right? So we know how many cards you have, if you have any debt, how much, what the interests are, what the credit limits for each card are, if you're paying debt, how much you're going to be assigning to that, if you've called to waive any fees, reduce APRs, etc. Right? But here we're going to be discussing about your bank accounts, your checking and your savings accounts. Right? These are the foundation of your personal finance house, if you will, that you're building up to become rich with patience. As Ramit says, bank accounts are the backbone of your personal finance infrastructure. Right? So let's dive into it. Ramit calls this section beating the banks. I personally like how he outlines that not all banks and institutions were created equal. In fact, you'll note that most big banks are they're not acting maybe in your best interest. Right? You'll notice this with abysmally small interest rates for any savings accounts. And also you get hit with crazy fees that just knock away all your interest earnings. Right? So overdraft fees are $35, whereas an interest rate will give you maybe 0.01%. Right? So if you put in $200, maybe by the end of the year, you have 2 pennies to kind of rub together. But moving on from Ramit's personal opinion of banks, let's discuss the two that you got to take into consideration, right? Checking accounts and savings accounts. So checking account is like the foundation of your financial plan, right? It's the ground floor with which you're going to build your wealth upon. There's a lot of moving parts to it. Right? If you think about it, when you have a checking account set up, right? Assume you have a job, so money's coming in, and then ideally you're moving money throughout. You're not keeping a lot of it in your checking account. You're keeping a cash cushion, but you're not keeping a lot of it. It's going to savings, investments, what have you. And of course, this being Ramit, he likes things automated. I'll expand upon that in future sections. I myself am not really automated, very manual, but keep that in mind as we move through all of these parts. And talking about the cash cushion, a tip I use and Ramit also advocates is just to keep a fair amount of money inside your checking account in need for emergencies or to prevent any kind of overdraft situations, right? Because when you do get an overdraft fee, you could call your bank and let them know, hey, this is a mistake, remove this fee, I've got the money coming in. But if you do that every week, then you're kind of look suspicious. Now, aside from checking accounts, you also have savings accounts. So savings accounts are where you want to be putting money for short to medium term goals. So short being maybe within the next year, medium within the next 5 years. It's also where I like to put what I call the emergency fund. Right, Ramit advocates starting off with maybe a month and a half. Recently in social media, he's been advocating for a year. I myself am working towards that year goal because I like that idea. Okay, if anything happens and I can't work for a year, at least I won't go hungry or homeless. But also keep in mind, going back to, the banks don't always have your best interest out, for consideration, is that with savings account, most of them don't exactly have really good savings rates. Meaning if you park your money there, you're going to lose more due to inflation of the US dollar as opposed to earning any money in interest from when you park your money there. Odds are the bank will give you 0.01%, less than a percent, and inflation is 2 to 3%. So you're just losing money every year you keep money in there. But that's what I'm investing for, which we'll expand upon in the next part. No rush. For now, we're just building up our foundations. Now, again, you need both a checking and a savings account. Again, the checking is for movement of money coming in, money goes out. And then the savings is for short to medium term goals. Now, digging into this, Ramit offers a couple of options with which you could pair these checkings and savings accounts, right? So the most basic option is just that you have a checkings and a savings account at a local bank. Odds are, myself included, that you have a bank account set up from either something that was closest to you or when you were a kid, some of your parents set something up for you. The most important thing to know for this setup with the most basic option of just a checking and a savings account at a bank near you is you call and make sure you're not getting hit with any fees, right? Just to put your money there. And then ideally no minimums either, because that kind of locks your monies up. Moving on from this, you have this basic option of a checking savings, but you have a little more optimization there with you have, say, a checking account at a local bank that you trust, but also you're moving now to a higher interest online savings account that gives you more interest rate to kind of combat this losing money through inflation phenomenon. Again, you want to call in and check that you're not getting fees or you're not getting hit with a minimum. And then the third option that Ramit calls like the advanced high optimization, you could consider it, you kind of have you have a lot of automation going on, right? But not only do you have an online savings account that gives you a higher interest, you also have like a checkings account, possibly online, that also gives you a higher interest. And then they also give you nice features. Again, no minimums, no fees. Maybe if they give you an ATM card to use, they'll compensate you or reimburse you for any ATM withdrawal fees, etc., etc. Now, with so many different flavors of banks, if you will, out there to choose from, it's hard to pick a couple. Ramit does have a blacklist of banks that he personally just hates. I'm not going to name them here. You could look up Ramit and any big bank name and he'll give you his input on them. Right? I personally bank with big banks only because, again, it was closest to me and it was set up for me when I was a wee child by my parents. Right? But if you are looking for a banking institution, if you're tired of banking with your current bank, there's a couple things to consider, right? So the first one would be trust. It has to be a reputable bank that either your friends or family or internet ranks, that they tell you like, okay, yeah, this bank does look out for its customers, or they offer really great customer service. You can look again on NerdWallet or Bankrate and look into that to rate banks and rank them, to find something that fits your criteria, and especially needs to tie in with the second criteria, right? So first is trust, second is convenience, right? The bank has to be close to you, it has to have a lot of ATM locations near you. Maybe not recently, but I had to contend with that for one of my banks where I had moved cross country for a job, only to find out that there's no local branches of one of my main bank. There's just maybe like some ATMs tied to it. Convenience is huge. The third thing to consider is also features. Again, this goes back to, you want a bank, you want to put your money in a place that doesn't handicap you with minimums, right? Okay, yeah, you have to have this much, or you have to have direct deposit, what have you. And also, you want to make sure you're not getting hit with crazy high fees that kind of obliterate any kind of interest earnings you may get that year. Now, Ramit's kind enough in this second edition book to offer recommendations without any actual interest rates. He learned his lesson from the first book. So straight off the bat, for checking accounts, he recommends going with what's called the Schwab checking account because that's tied in with their investing account. So you have to open an investing account to open this checking account, but nobody says you have to put in any money into the investing account. And he likes the Schwab account because of all the features, all the convenience, the ATM fee reimbursement, no minimums, no fees, etc. So everything he talks about, this one checks the boxes. Now, to be fair, if you're uncomfortable with that, a good runner-up to a checking account aside from Schwab is just something near you. So again, something you trust, something that's convenient, and then you could discuss with them the features that are important to you, right? You don't want any fees, right? You don't want any kind of minimums required. You need to have $1,500 in this account by the end of the business day or whatever. You don't want to deal with that nonsense. Right? Moving on to savings accounts. Ramit really likes online savings accounts. He advocates Ally. He also advocates Capital One. Right? These are saving accounts that, again, are looking out for their customer, higher interest rates than what most big banks offer. And then runner-ups for that include Marcus by Goldman Sachs and the American Express savings account. Take a look into each of these. Right? Again, NerdWallet and Bankrate are going to be your friends, and to really dig into it, right? Because an hour or two of just homework can net you orders of magnitude, like 10 times more like interest earnings per year, and also maybe hundreds, if not thousands of dollars less, any kind of overdraft fees, overdraft protection, which is critical, right? Because things happen. And then ideally you want to get yourself in a situation, in a relationship with the best banks so that they're looking out for you. Now, at this point, if you are content with where you're at with your bank accounts, okay, we'll move on to optimization. But if not, you've done your homework, you've searched, you found some that you like. And again, the key things to keep in mind: trust, convenience, features, No fees, no minimums, right? A lot of things looking out for you in case something real happens and you want to avoid those kind of fees. Now, if you do decide to open new accounts, then comes the daunting task of migrating money, right? It's going to take some time. You're going to have to close the old accounts and move to the new accounts. But then what's exciting afterwards is that then you get to optimize accounts. And again, once you optimize, it goes back to the same basic advice Ramit says, and I've been repeating over and over. You don't want fees, you don't want minimums, and you want to keep a cash cushion. And then that cash cushion, is up to you how much you want to keep, 300, 500, maybe even 1,000, but no more than that, right? It's just in case as you're moving money automatically, say utilities went up just a little bit this month, you want to have that cash cushion to prevent you getting hit with overdraft fees. Because your track record doesn't look good if you get overdraft fees every month, and then you got to call the bank every month to be like, hey, take this fee off, and they're not going to give it to you all the time. And again, picking bank accounts are not rocket science. Ramit has a plan for that. Take a look at your current checking account, right? I know both of my checking accounts have overdraft fees and minimum account balance requirements, right? Unless it's waived by a direct deposit. And you want to contact that bank and tell them, hey, I wanted you to remove these. You got to be firm. You got to say with strength, be a little demanding, right? And if they play hardball, maybe it's time to look at a new bank. Again, NerdWallet, Bankrate. Get a new checking account. There's so much better out there. You don't have to stick with your old account. Same thing with savings, right? There's so much more interest rates that just give you much more money back, right? Like that's what interest earnings are. And then I've noticed that some big banks are offering higher yield, higher interest savings accounts. So look into that as well. Check your local banks, check the bank you use, and see if they offer anything that could benefit you, right? If it's within the same institution, it saves you the hassle of having to move a lot of money, right? They want to keep you as a customer. And again, the optional thing, if you really want to optimize, looking for a higher interest checking account, not savings, checking. So that any money that is in there, it's earning. And then after that, fund your savings account. Leave a month and a half of expenses in your checking or whatever you're comfortable with. Move the rest of your savings for your short-term goals. And that's really it for the banking section. Right? 4 easy steps that are for my viewers that Ramit gives us as homework, right? Confirm your checking account situation. Make sure it's up to snuff. Make sure you're requesting to remove fees and minimums, right? And if it's not, look for something else that you want. And then after that, check it out with your savings accounts. Your savings account should have way higher rates than 0.01, 0.05%, right? Right now, the market seems to be hovering around 0.5, 0.6. So check that out. Again, it's 2021, it's March 2021. Check that out. So your checkings, your savings, if you really want to optimize to get an interest checking account, look for that as well, right? And then finally, fund your savings account to make sure you're having money in there for your short and medium term goals, right? And again, the recommendations from Ramit for checking is using the Schwab investment with the Schwab checking account combined together. Or your local bank that you're already banking with that you trust is convenient, it has great features, no fees, no minimums. Right? For savings accounts, the recommendations were Ally Online or Capital One Online. Check those out. Again, or your local bank, the one you bank with, if they're offering a higher interest one, look into that. Right? Good runner-ups for online savings include Marcus by Goldman Sachs and American Express. My homework for you guys, look into it. Spend a week, see where your current bank, checking, and savings account situation is. And then see if you want to make a move. I'm not telling you should, but there's definitely better options out there. Till next time, this has been Zen. I'll catch you guys in part 3. I'm going to add things either here or link below for linking to part 1 and eventually part 3. Thank you.